people look at you. I liked all the stuff about. I like the stuff about finding the costume.
Yes.
And it hadn't struck me before, because when I first became aware of you, you were already in that look that we associate with the 80s Alexei Sayle of the tight mod suit. You looked like a two-tone kind of look almost. And then I see early photos, and I think maybe even in that film that's made at the Comedy Store.
I think I'm in the suit, but certainly in the photos which are on the stairs here.
You're in the leather jacket.
Jacket and chinos. Yeah.
And right, when I look at that, I think, oh right, who's that guy? Why is he on stage talking? But when you're in that suit, you go, well, he's on stage talking because for some reason he is a comedian, and he's got to fill that time up. But all he knows about is Willie Jumblatt and sort of mad, And so when you talk about when you saw that suit,
in the Oxfam shop in Putney.
Yeah.
And it was again, I think one of the things that the book is, I think is in a way you tried to do with yours. I think it's important to also provide something of a handbook for other performers, to show how you arrived at your methods, and your look, and it's kind of magical, I think, really, the way, once I found that look, it was always, you can get quite kind of magical realism about it in a way that you think it was, I was meant to see that suit, and it looked like, I got a kind of fantasy that it was one of the Four Tops or whatever had left it in a boarding house, and the owner had sold it, and it ended up in the Oxfam shop in Putney High Street. And first of all, it was just my good suits, and then something happened where I wore it on stage one night, and it just suddenly went really tight and stupid looking, or maybe it had always been like that. And also going bald, which was a horrible experience, but was fortuitous because it meant that I shaved my head, which in an era when people didn't really, apart from Yul Brynner, there was nobody who did that. It just felt magical when it finally that I became that guy, rather than a kind of a prototype of that guy. Yeah. But on the other hand, there's nothing wrong with being you can't be stretching. It's nothing wrong with being the prototype, the early version,
Another thing I thought was interesting about that was that, when Thatcher died, for example, you're wheeled out as the critic of the right, okay, but in so much of the stuff in those routines is also an attack on the left-wing support base, on the voters, on the sorts of people. You brilliantly identify that 70s, 80s emergence of the sort of polytechnic-educated, lower middle class, working class, who suddenly had consumer goods created for them, lifestyle choices, things from Habitat, watching Channel 4 films, which as a teenager, I thought, God, I hope I can grow up to be like that. It sounds brilliant to be like a Guardian reading 80s left-wing adult, but they're very much the target of your rage as well, and so I think it's great because that would have been the people in the room. So it wasn't like this thing of going, here are the others. No. And it also wasn't the thing people do like, oh, we all do this, we're all like that. It's going, you're like this, and you're all cunts.
You're class. Yeah, exactly. And they loved it, which is like, Yeah. But my rage was, I always felt much more rage with the left than the right, really,
Well, because you didn't have any expectations of them.
No, of course.
Yeah. So you're let down by them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. They were betrayed constantly by the left. Yeah. I remember doing a benefit in Brockwell Park for the march for, what was it called? The TUC arranged to march some poor bloody unemployed kids endlessly up and down the country. People's March for Jobs, I think. Yeah. Well, I remember there was a left-wing photographer called Red Saunders, and he said to me, you should be doing stuff about Thatcher, not against your audience. I thought, well, fuck, I don't want to do that. I don't know Thatcher. Yeah. Like you say, she hasn't let me. She's just being what she never pretended to be nothing that she isn't. Really, So, yeah.
That's tied in with the emergence of that audience, isn't it? Of society allowing that.
And they did. Sometimes I used to be criticised for that the audience, that I was doing stuff I was satirising an audience who loved being satirised. No, I mean, there was a strong element. What are you going to do, you know? But also, there was always a strong, I mean, do I say it in the book? There was always like a lot of army in my shows and a lot of police. And
people who like the violence.
They like, exactly,
the rage.
and they knew, the police, I think, who used to come and see me, they loved the rage. And they also knew that everything was a lie because they saw society. I mean, they were part of the problem.
Part of the problem, yeah.
Yeah, but they loved me because of the violence and because I was telling the truth, you know, and they weren't liberal, lefty lecturers. You know?
There's a nicely self-aware thing throughout the book, though, that I think ties in with what you're saying about you're attacking your core audience. But there's a thing where, you know, to quote that famous Groucho Marx phrase that gave the club its name, you wouldn't want to belong to a club that have it as a member. And you identify yourself as part of a generation who, being educated, allowed you to then move into a place where you would never quite belong anyway.
Yeah.
And I mean, even with me, like it was 10, 15 years later, no one had been to university in that family. And then when you'd gone to university, they imagined that you would then emerge as an executive or something.
Yeah.
Not someone who, because they'd had a liberal education, then wanted to do something absolutely pointless that would probably not make any money.
Yeah.
It was very bewildering.
Yeah.
And you described this socially, in terms of the thing that you'll move through into a position where you feel you don't belong, and also that you get asked on these benefits like the Secret Policeman's Ball with the famous celebrities, but you don't go on at the end for the mass sing-along.
No.
You sort of stand in the wings doing a little dance on your own.
Yeah,
like,
but I wouldn't. I hated that. When they all went on and sang "I Shall Be Released," I thought, puke. But on the other hand, I couldn't go home, so I just sort of stand.
That's kind of like, it's like a really great metaphor for the whole thing. Like you've been in, look at all them in that world of celebrity. Well, you can come in if you like. Well, I'm not going in there. You know?
But on the other hand, I'm not like gonna, you know,
left.
I'm just gonna stand about and, you know, not quite. I'm not going home either.
Yeah, but then the good thing about that is you're not the memory of those things of yours then are not compromised in any way. Because you're sort of like this spectral figure, sort of. But this